Okay, so hi everybody. Welcome to tonight's virtual event. I'm Danielle. I'm the community manager here at Calibrate, and I'm really excited to have so many members of the Calibrate community as well as the Elektra Health community join us for this event this evening in honor of Menopause Awareness Month. A few housekeeping things just before we get started. I'm going to be recording this event, so it will be shared out to anybody who registered prior in case someone couldn't make it or you have to leave a little bit early. Everyone will get it by email in the next couple of days. And then also I'm going to leave about 10 minutes at the end for live questions, Q&A. So there's a Q&A button on the Zoom, which you can submit your questions for myself and Dr. Bear and Dr. Poynter, and we will get to those at the end. So that leads me to our amazing panelists, Dr. Bear and Dr. Poynter. Dr. Bear is a Calibrate doctor and Dr. Poynter is an Electro Health expert. And before I have them introduce themselves, I thought we could start with a quick little overview of Calibrate and Electro Health for those of you who may not be familiar with what they are. So first, Calibrate is the first metabolic health company changing the way the world treats weight with our one-year virtual program that combines doctor-prescribed GLP-1 medications with intensive lifestyle intervention with through an app-based curriculum that and one-on-one video coaching that leads to improved metabolic health markers as well as sustained weight loss. And Elektra Health is a women's health company smashing the menopause taboo and helping women navigate this hormonal transition through education, community, and care through their Metamorphosis, their new virtual platform and telemedicine clinic. And you can learn more about them on their website as well. So we have gathered some of our community's most pressing questions about menopause and metabolic health through social media. And last week, we actually launched a poll on our Instagram for our community, asking the questions, have you experienced weight gain as a symptom of menopause or perimenopause? And 74% of our community answered yes to that question. And that definitely resonated for us, especially as we were thinking about Menopause Awareness Month. And so we thought we would kick off this evening with a couple more polls from our audience. So I'm going to put the question up on the screen, and then I'm going to launch the poll and you guys can answer anonymously and it'll be 3 questions total. So, okay. The first question is, do you feel prepared knowing what to expect during these life stages? And I'll give you guys a couple seconds here to answer the poll. I see a lot coming in already. I'll wait till we have a majority here. Okay, looks like we have a majority, about 95% said no. Okay, second. The next question is, do you discuss menopausal symptoms with your family or friends? Okay, watching the second one. It's kind of fun to watch it like come in live. It's exciting, real time. Okay, so it looks like we have a majority yes to this one, 73% have said yes. And the last question is, if you're experiencing menopause or perimenopause, do you plan to seek any form of treatment to lessen those symptoms? Okay. Okay, and this one, it looks like majority is yes, with 66%. Cool. Oh, 67. Okay, thanks everybody for participating in those polls. Those are really exciting to see come in real time. So next, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Baer to introduce herself, share a little bit about her background and what she does at Calibrate, as well as her why for doing what she does.
Hi everyone. I'm Dr. Kristen Baer, and we're so excited to have you here for our webinar tonight. I did my training at University of Illinois at Chicago and completed a residency in family medicine many years ago. And then the past few years, I decided to focus my career on medical weight loss, and I obtained a second board certification in obesity medicine and have been focusing on weight loss is my focus and practice since then. And I've been with Calibrate since December of 2020 and then joined full-time in May of this year, and very happy to be here and looking forward to working with all of you, some one-on-one and some in more of a group setting.
Great, thank you. And Dr. Poynter?
Hi, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Poynter. I am actually a GYN oncologist, so women's cancer surgeon, but have always had a very large interest in midlife women's health and the impact that declining and fluctuating hormones have on women's physiology, and have segued a lot of my practice now into the management of midlife women's health issues, because as you can imagine, as we age, cancer risk increases. And so this is a large proportion of my practice in terms of risk stratification of cancer risk, but also management of that risk through lifestyle, through healthy nutrition and lifestyle, and also hormonal management. And so that's segued into now a very large interest in general women's health and menopause and perimenopause. And there are a great amount of work that needs to be done in this area. So this is why we've decided to focus in this area in our practice.
Great, thank you. Okay, so let's get into menopause and metabolic health. I'm gonna ask 2 questions to Dr. Poynter and have you go dive deep into these 2 things. So one is, why does weight gain happen during perimenopause and menopause? And is there any way to prepare for these life stages?
So why does weight gain happen? Weight gain can happen through metabolic changes, which is probably the major reason that weight gain happens at the time of perimenopause and menopause, through fluctuating estrogen levels. There are also life stressors also that can lead to weight gain through elevated cortisol levels, and also sleep disruptions that occur during menopause and perimenopause that can lead to weight gain. It's probably a combination of factors that leads to weight gain during this time period. But the real question is what is the impact, I think, that fluctuating estrogen levels and declining estrogen levels have on a woman's metabolism? Because as we've all experienced, as we've gone through menopause, we say, we eat the same amount of food, we eat the same type of food, but we all put on weight, or many of us put on weight. Not everybody does, but many of us do. And the question really is what is the impact that estrogen has on metabolism? And there were some very elegant studies that were done a number of years ago, where a group of investigators took 2 sets of mice. They took one set of mice where they did a sham operation, so just put an incision on their abdomen. And then a second one where they took out the ovaries, and the mice that had their ovaries removed all gained weight. So something to do with declining estrogens or androgens led to weight gain in these mice. And so we know that estrogen probably has some impact on the metabolism. And I think Dr. Barrow talked about this a little bit further, with leads to increase in fat storage, insulin resistance, and decreased muscle mass. But there also may be some other more complex interactions that are gaining some traction in terms of maybe leptin resistance, effects that estrogen has on the mitochondria, gut microbiome is changed when we have declining estrogen levels. So really the short answer is that estrogen levels impact metabolism, and the mechanisms of how estrogen impacts metabolism are really poorly elucidated right now. But we need to elucidate these mechanisms so that we can get in and actually help women fix the problem of weight gain and increased fat storage. And the second question was, just remind me. First question was, why do you gain weight at the time of menopause and perimenopause? Second question
is there any way to prepare for those life stages?
Education, education, education. And this is why, and we'll talk about Electra in a moment, but this is why I'm part of Electra, because the way to prepare is to educate yourself so that you can be anticipatory and proactive in your care and not be reactive. So that, for example, the average amount of weight that's put on at the time of menopause and perimenopause is between 5 and 7 pounds. Many of my patients will report a 10-pound weight gain, but then getting ahead of the curve on that, realizing that when estrogen levels start to fluctuate, this is when we really need to grab a hold of our health. It's a great opportunity. It's probably the first time in many women's lives where you have to really pay attention to your health overall in terms of healthy lifestyle, good sleep, good nutrition, but education to be proactive and anticipatory and not reactive.
Yeah, for sure. Also, a great reason why we're hosting this event tonight is hopefully we can reach more people with this. Great, thank you so much. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Baer to answer these two questions. So the first one is, why does visceral fat pose the biggest risk to our metabolic health?
Yeah, so visceral fat is the fat that is found around our midsection, around our internal organs, in our belly. And fat needs to be thought of as an endocrine organ. We used to think of fat as just storage, right? It's energy that we've consumed that we have not needed to burn yet. But fat tissue, including visceral fat, is very metabolically active. It's sending out all types of chemical messengers and hormones that are having an impact on other areas of the body. And visceral fat is sending out chemical messengers that can be very inflammatory. And given their proximity to our internal organs, it is associated with a higher risk of metabolic diseases such as diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So visceral fat is definitely thought of as more inflammatory and dangerous opposed to subcutaneous fat, which is the fat we find directly underneath our skin, that looks a little bit more mushy and that we can pinch, typically found on our thighs and hips and maybe our arms. So the different types of fat send out different chemical messengers and hormones, and it's the visceral fat that has been found to be mostly associated with disease risk because of the inflammation that it causes.
Okay, got it. And then why does weight come onto our abdomens during menopause?
This is another great question that Dr. Poynter also alluded to with metabolic health and the association with declining or fluctuating levels of estrogen. So estrogen and insulin do work closely together, and estrogen helps our cells maintain what we call insulin sensitivity. And if our cells are sensitive to insulin, we don't need a whole lot of insulin. A little bit goes a long way. But as our estrogen levels start to decline, we lose some of that insulin sensitivity, and we can even become insulin resistant. And eventually we need more and more insulin to keep our blood sugar in check, even if we've kept our diet and activity levels exactly the same. And insulin is an anabolic hormone, right? It promotes growth. And it promotes fat storage. So insulin also has an affinity for the visceral fat cells around our midsection. So when insulin is high, in a state of insulin resistance, we tend to put on weight in our midsection. So as our estrogen levels are declining and our insulin levels are trending up, our body's going to get the message to store fat in the visceral fat tissue around our abdomen.
Okay. Great, thank you. So we had some questions that were pre-submitted as well as some that have started to come in, but if anyone else has any questions, feel free to submit them through the Q&A. But I will kick it off with one that just came in. So the first question is, what about women who are in a chemically induced menopause as a result of cancer treatments for hormone positive breast cancer?
We see weight gain in those situations, actually. Interestingly, tamoxifen, which is a selective estrogen receptor modulator, actually, we definitely, for some women, not all women, as all of this is, but for many women will gain weight with tamoxifen. Interestingly, the AIs, and tamoxifen is used for younger women with breast cancer, right, who are still have ovarian function, right? AIs are typically used for older women who have transitioned through menopause or who have had a chemically induced menopause with Lupron or Zoladex, or who have had their ovaries removed. And these women probably have had that impact of menopause a little bit beforehand in terms of their weight. So I don't see, and this is just anecdotally, I don't see as many patients or women complaining of weight gain with an AI. And I think that's just a group of women that we use AIs for. But tamoxifen definitely, as a selective estrogen receptor modulator, can also be associated with weight gain.
Mm-hmm. Okay, would HRT or estrogen supplementation help with weight loss? Either one of you can take this.
I think that question needs to be studied appropriately. And Kristen, please chime in anywhere where you think you can, or I'm going awry. But there are some studies that show that hormone replacement therapy is a wash, that it doesn't increase, you don't lose weight, you don't gain weight. When estrogen levels are higher, you tend to actually gain weight. And there's some studies that have shown that maybe you don't gain as much weight with menopause if you're on hormone replacement therapy. So I think the question really needs to be studied a little bit better, just like many studies in women's health. We need to look at specifics a little bit better. When do you start hormone replacement therapy? Is it at the time of perimenopause, before cells and metabolism have had a chance to change? Or maybe we're too late when we're doing hormone replacement therapy after our metabolism has changed. So one of the big questions that I have is, when is the appropriate time to start hormone replacement therapy related to metabolism? And then second, what is the appropriate? What is the balance between estrogen and progesterone? What are the levels that we're looking at? And these are, I think, very poorly studied questions. And then we need to look at these in a little bit bigger endeavors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would absolutely agree with that. In my clinical experience, I've had a lot of women start hormone replacement therapy with hopes of losing weight or hoping that it would prevent weight gain. And based on my experience, that has not really been the case. As Dr. Poynter said, we're really lacking on studies that give us definitive answers here. So I would definitely defer to your gynecologist or Elektra Health for further guidance. But in my experience, going on hormone replacement therapy has not been the magic solution for weight loss that a lot of women are hoping for.
Completely agree with that.
Great. And one of the questions that I'm seeing come up a little bit are there any foods that are, that can help with any symptoms or weight gain of menopause? Any specific foods that are good or not good?
So I think going back to the connection with metabolic health here, we want to focus on foods that are going to be very nutrient dense and kind of optimize our hormonal response. And typically when our insulin sensitivity starts to decline, women tend to do better with a lower amount of carbohydrates. And I'm absolutely not saying it has to be a low carb diet or ketogenic diet by any means, but the standard American diet typically has roughly 300 grams of carbohydrates per day. And a lot of that comes from processed food and sugars, which are going to spike our glucose, which then causes a subsequent spike in insulin. And again, tying that back, insulin likes to promote growth of fat cells, especially our visceral fat cells. So if we can help diminish that insulin response and still control our glucose, I think those are the foods that we should focus on. And typically those are foods that are have healthy fats, protein, and fiber, and are very nutrient dense, or slow released carbs that aren't going to cause these huge spikes in glucose. And I think in general, a lot of people do very well with that type of nutrition, but especially during your perimenopause and menopause years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of going off of that one, you know, I know you both kind of alluded to this earlier, but what about sleep? How does sleep impact weight gain during this life stage? I feel like lack of sleep in particular.
Yeah, so, and I'd love to get Dr. Poynter's thoughts on this too, because we do know that sleep is often impaired during menopause. Often women who've never had trouble sleeping suddenly wake up at 2 a.m. and are unable to fall back asleep. But we know that there are different stages of sleep. And one of those stages is deep sleep. And that is like our quality restorative sleep. And that's kind of when our hormones reset for the day. And studies have found if we're not getting quality deep sleep, several hormonal changes occur the next day. One is that ghrelin increases, and ghrelin is our hunger hormone. So often people are hungrier the next day and are often craving more sugar and sweets. Second, it can also cause a spike in cortisol, and cortisol is our stress hormone. And part of the downstream effect of cortisol is that it's going to cause your body to dump more glucose or sugar into your bloodstream, which is then going to cause your pancreas to secrete more insulin. So it's just kind of the snowball effect. You're tired, you're not sleeping well, you're going to be hungrier the next day, your glucose is already going to be higher, your insulin's already going to be higher, and now you're going to be craving sugar and sweets, which is just this vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can add anything to that. I think that was a beautiful physiologic description of what happens when you don't sleep. And we all know I think these are the two biggest problems that we deal with menopause: weight gain and sleep disruption. I mean, they're the two largest, I think, in terms of difficult to manage and can't fix so easily.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, another question. So, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but how come things like that people have tried beforehand to lose weight aren't working during menopause? Might not work.
That's the metabolism shift. I mean, that's because our metabolism completely shifts. So we don't process our nutrients the same way. So, and that's I think the holy grail of this in terms of, how does our metabolism shift, insulin resistance and other mechanisms. And I'll leave it to you, Kristen, to.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So the shift in the metabolism and insulin resistance, suddenly the carbohydrates and sugar that you've been eating for many years is going to be metabolized very differently in your body. So it's something to be aware of. And we also lose muscle mass as we age. It could be anywhere from 3 to 10% per decade after age 30. And muscle is a very metabolically active tissue, and it helps us maintain our insulin sensitivity and helps to control glucose levels. So our metabolic rate is decreasing as well. And I think that's where exercise, any type of movement, but especially resistance training, can be very helpful to maintain muscle mass, especially during the weight loss process, and helping our metabolism as well. Studies have also shown that with every weight loss attempt through caloric restriction, our metabolic rate goes down. And what studies have shown is that even when we regain the weight, our metabolic rate doesn't recover. It usually stays lower. So every subsequent attempt, we're getting another drop in our metabolic rate. And a lot of people have described histories, myself included, where our weight has kind of bounced up and down and fluctuated our entire adult life, which over time can have this cumulative effect on our metabolic rate, which is why Calibrate, we want this to serve as a metabolic reset. We kind of want to get all these hormonal changes and adaptations in place to reset your metabolic rate and help lower that set point weight as well, because I think it is, as Dr. Poynter said earlier, it is complex and usually multifactorial, and there are a lot of separate entities that need to be addressed when it comes to weight loss here.
For sure. Okay, one more. I think we could probably do one more question before we wrap up. And if we didn't get to your question, we will follow up with the recap and the recording in the next couple of days. So I thought this was a great question. And something we haven't really covered yet, are there any nutritional or lifestyle things that women in perimenopause or menopause can do to lessen the severity of hot flashes?
Nutrition wise, so going back to just a healthy lifestyle, right, and weight management too. We know that when you're heavier, when you enter into perimenopause and menopause, that actually hot flashes may be worse. There are studies that have shown that yoga can help with hot flashes and exercise can help with hot flashes. With nutritional impacts would be eating that low, having that low glycemic index nutrition plan. And you can add, if you don't have a history of an estrogen dependent malignancy, add in some phytoestrogens into your diet, actually may be beneficial and helpful to you. There are supplements that you can use also, but in terms of nutrition and lifestyle, really beginning to focus. I think, again, this goes back to preparing yourself. And this is where I think Electro is really great and gives you the community and the coaching and the ability to begin to put these interventions in order to lessen the impact of the many symptoms that you can have at perimenopause and menopause. But getting back to healthy nutrition, low glycemic index diet, focusing on clean, healthy proteins, exercise, getting good sleep. These will all have been demonstrated to be helpful with hot flashes.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. I mean, that was we're perfect timing. If there's anything else you want to add, otherwise, I think we are all set. Thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate everyone participating in the polls and asking such great questions. And thank you to Dr. Baer and Dr. Poynter for being here. And of course, to Calibrate and Elektra Health for helping us put on this amazing event. And I will see you guys next time. Bye guys, thanks.